Amanda here again with our adult milk. Right, I want to discuss a topic that I see and have seen for years actually. I think it might be the thing that gets people the most angry. There are different kind of there are different emotions, so there are different things that get people anxious. Like, I think the top two anxious feelings are when people have complaints, when they get complications or kind of side effects, or the fear of those things. But the anger one, I don't know, what do you think? Is there anything, can you think of examples of where people get more angry about anything else apart from even online trolling? People are more just kind
more
of like
defensive, angry. No, this
it's
is
like,
definitely the thing that makes people most angry. Yeah.
So it's competitors, people down the road, not complying with the rules. I know we don't exactly.
Of course, half the industry don't even have rules. So
yeah. But you know what though, babe? I think that people get more wound up with other healthcare professionals and allied health professionals breaking the rules than they do with abuse therapists. Anyway, so people down the road not complying. So, for example, maybe with ASA, MHRA rules around the use of the word Botox, any kind of prescribing misdemeanors. What else could people get annoyed about? The ASA one is particularly, it gets people's goat because they see it, and the MHRA thing.
Other things like hearing that they're not looking after patients properly sometimes annoys them, but nowhere near as much as advertising standards. I think that's the number one thing.
And I think the reason why, I mean, in fact, tell us, guys, why does it get your goat? Like, what is it? What's the nature? What are you making it mean? And I think that the people get annoyed because it feels like this unfair advantage. You feel like you're not playing on a level playing field. Like, people don't mind competition, and they don't mind having a bit of a,
I don't think people like competition. You just have to deal with it. It'd be good if there was no competition. But it's like when if you're on the motorway in a traffic jam and some guy goes down the hard shoulder. That's how it feels. You're playing the game. You're stuck in the same queue. Like, everyone's sticking by the rules except for this guy who just wants to go down the hard shoulder. So, and you get really angry. Like, I feel that emotion if I'm in that situation. You're like, oh, I want to. No.
You get angry when other people are just on the road.
No.
Like you said, these are the bastards. You to the road, my road.
No, I was noticing that how unreasonable it is. But I did have that emotion. You're right. I was pulling out of school and I was like,
I know you don't actually logically think
the road we live on is so quiet that, like, when 5 cars come along, you're like, come on, it's so unreasonable.
Come on.
Who do they think they are?
Enough already. With all
5
this
in a row.
driving around.
But I don't actually get angry with them. I'm not actually an angry driver. I was just thinking, I had that emotion of like, this is unfair.
Yeah. Bastards.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted your flow.
So but I think that's the emotion, is that you see yourself as sticking by the rules, which of course everyone sees themselves that way.
Yeah. What are you implying?
Well, everyone, there are all things that you do.
Though. I think we have to be. We're here to challenge ourselves.
Challenge. Like, most people don't 100% stick to the rules 100% of the time. Of course not, because if you did, when you first start aesthetics, you'd have a locked fridge with with temperature control and stock control, and you don't do that when you first start. You just stick it in your normal fridge, or you buy a little camping fridge, but it's not locked.
And just stuff like weird little things like. Did you guys know that if you were to be compliant with HMRC rules, for the taxman rules, you should keep all your records in a fireproof, lockable cabinet? Yeah. Which obviously, say no more. I'll just say no more on that topic. But yeah.
So no one's 100% compliant with 100% of the rules, but there are certain rules that are akin to going down the hard shoulder, and they make you want to. I think the question is, what do you do when you're sat in that lane? And someone goes past on the hard shoulder. How do you deal? How do you get the best out of that situation? The metaphor, because the worst thing you can do is pull your own car to the hard shoulder and chase them down, ram them off the road, and stand and shout at them, and then get involved with some road rage where they try and ram you off the road and you try and ram them off the road. Because I've seen practitioners do this, where they start a war amongst each other, And
look, you're confusing me now. You mean
so the analogy is all
you
gone
see
crazy.
nurses on the road?
No,
Fucking nurse, get off my road. Sorry, carry on.
no, you see people completely lose their shit and
Yeah.
go after someone big time, and then of course the person they go after then goes after them,
Yeah.
and then they send people into each other's practices to try and catch each other out, and they report each other for everything.
Yeah.
And
whilst the whole time I think feeling kind of that smug sense of like I'm doing the right thing, and
yeah, and it's nothing to do. It's basically dominance behavior partly. There's an element of just I won't be done over by someone else. I will, which I understand the driver for it. What I want to think about for these guys watching is what's actually the best thing for you to do with your time for your business.
Yeah.
Because you can, if you want to, campaign for a better industry by taking out individual some individual people who are just starting out and breaking the rules. Like you could devote all your time to that, because that's what most people do. Like you teach them a lot on the course, we have it all written down in the manual, and then they're innocently, and people don't realize how I genuinely believe a lot of them are innocently thinking, I'm doing Botox now, I'll put it on my, let's advertise Botox so that people know what I'm doing. And then they start to hear about it. Now, some people think, oh, that's not really a rule, and they break it. That's a bit different. And some people think, I'll just break it until I get reported. So they're different categories. But what I'd like people to think about is it the best use of your time to go after individual people who are breaking the rules in terms of you building your business, like selfishly?
That's the difference for me. Like I feel strongly, and you have to appraise it. Maybe it is. I don't think we should say. I think people should make their own decision, but I think that when they make that decision, they should look at the impact on. They need to fully appraise. Right, if you have spent, like tonight, I've done this loads in the past. I wrote an article about it. Well, I've sort of woken up after 2 hours of, being knee deep in someone else's website. Oh God, they're doing this. Like not even snagging them. Just like they're not even not compliant. They're just living their lives. And I'm like, oh, they're doing this. Oh, we're not doing this. And then you're like, oh, you wake up. You're like, what am I doing? I could have been building my business. But you actually don't have that thought because you don't realize that there's an opportunity cost. You should have been building your business.
It's the opportunity cost and weighing up what you could be doing that time versus the impact of that time. And also there's public health responsibility. Like I do think there are times when people absolutely need to be reported for the public good. The question is whether maybe even there are times when it's for your business's good as well.
Yeah.
But I think that more often people get entangled in things that actually aren't going to affect their business.
Yeah. And you have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to be honest with yourself, like, why am I doing this? Really, really, why am I doing this? And whenever I go into resentment or anger or whatever you want to call it, I find that energy, sometimes it's incredibly hard to, go on, what's funny?
Nothing.
To extract yourself from it.
Yeah.
To come out of your, to get out of your bad state, basically. And sometimes I find that the only way I can get out of resentment is to ask myself, what's in it for me to get out of this resentment? Because it can, and it's delicious. Let's be honest. If you find someone is not compliant and you think there's a chance that you could report them to the MHRA, I've got a story on that, don't let me forget. Report them to the MHRA or, NMC or whatever you want to do. If you think I've actually got some power here, I could affect this situation, they're bastards. And if you do that, then I've forgotten my point.
I was really looking forward to that one.
You think that you've got power over the situation, but what you don't realize, I don't know if this is quite my point, but what is bloody is because I drank that really quickly. Don't listen to anything I said. You think that you are impacting the world, and you kind of are, I guess. You're impacting one practitioner, but you don't realize that you aren't impacting the person you should be. You aren't changing your own business. You aren't improving your own life, but you feel like you're doing something. So that's why you have to ask yourself, what's in it for me to come away from this resentment? Well,
firstly, I don't think most people are really doing it to affect the world. I know that that's what they will even say to themselves, but it's a little bit like everyone says, I'm terrified of complications. Like what they say is, I really don't want something bad to happen to someone, which is laudable, except they're not hanging outside our clinic checking capillary refill on our patients. It's only if it happens to them that it's an issue. So that's a way of separating that you're not, it's clearly because you see it as a threat, as well as it being breaking the rules. But it's the same as you feel in the hard shoulder, like when the guy goes past you in the hard shoulder. It's not because you really care whether people drive on the hard shoulder. It's the fact that you're stuck here and he's cheating. So you're the mug, you know, in a way, like he's going to get there.
Exactly. I have to say the mug thing does resonate with me.
Yeah. So that can help you sort out, because that's what I mean. There's almost like that element of primate dominance. Like, I won't have you break the rule. It's not really that it's going to affect your journey or not. It's just you don't want to have someone get one over on you. Whereas that same person breaking the rules in Thailand, like, you don't care. It doesn't affect you. It's irrelevant to your business. So there's an element of self-defense, and that's why more than anything you should weigh up whether that really is the best thing you can do to bring your business forward, because it feels like it is, because it's triggering. You're like, they are using advertising and breaking rules, and I want to go out and they're making it harder for me to run my business. And so I'm going to devote an hour to writing a letter and then exchanging all that. And actually, meantime, you could have changed something in your business that actually would have got you more clients and actually would have grown your business. And you've got to try and tease out when you're doing one, that something that's, now, obviously we also need people to report people to the MRHA, but there are enough other people not in the mindset group that'll keep happening anyway. So there's a public good element about it, but I just want people to think about that balance and how much energy they're devoting, and really whether they really care about public good, because then you should do it, or whether it's because it's a challenge to your business and you're feeling like it's holding you back. And then if you think it's because it's holding you back, then maybe the question is, what can you do for an hour of your time that's actually going to go and, because, you know, no one does enough marketing, no one puts themselves out enough, and you could do that in that time, and then you're going to feel a lot better about that someone cheating as well. So
because I think that when things really get to us, it's when we are in a fear state, or when we think it's going to affect us and our family, and ultimately, you know, when we're in a lizard brain state, that's when things really get to us. When we've had a really good, let's say that you have a really good day in the clinic, and, you know, you've had 3 people skipping out the door and telling you you're brilliant, I don't think you care about the person down the road who, so my story is that I once reported someone to the MHRA, and what? And
then they reported us back.
Yeah. No, was it them?
Well, it happened within a few weeks.
But
they found it somewhere on our website that we weren't compliant, and so
I remember the details. This was years ago. It's like 8 years ago or something.
There's not an unreasonable chance they're watching.
Oh, good. Never thought about that. But the point is, it was like, that illustrates your point beautifully. I mean, to be fair, I never thought to myself, oh, I'm doing this for the public good. To be honest, I was in a fear state. You know, we were quite new into the business, and I saw them open up down the road. There was a sign outside, like a big fat sign. And I was like, this is not. And so I just.
Because the story in your head is, they're going to steal everything because they're not playing by the rules.
Let's talk about that.
Well, it's what human beings always do. You know, we've had it recently with a misunderstanding between us, where you relate it to the worst possible thing. When you don't know what's going on, you immediately say the worst thing that can happen. Oh my God, it's that. So, or even if you do understand it, so you see something as a threat and you attribute it, you immediately, on an emotional level, it's not intellectual. You're not writing a letter to yourself saying, I believe that her breaking the rules is going to gradually cause an attrition of my client base until they're 0. You don't say that. It's the emotional connection is, this is a threat to my existence, kill it. So, but as soon as you realize that's really not true, then you can appraise it.
Let's just talk about that though, because will people realize that? People do think that the more practitioners that are in the market, like, let's say there are, you know, 2 people on your road now instead of the 1, you feel like your business is going to die. It's so not as clear as that.
Well, it's not as clear as that in a growing market. In a growing market, what's actually happening, and this is the actual truth. So there are more people coming into this arena that we're working in all the time.
Clients.
There are more clients, and those people are being pulled in by our competitors. So when it's a plateaued industry, and you're like baked beans, for example. Yes, when someone buys something instead of Heinz, they're not buying Heinz. But when baked beans were first invented, the more people who made baked beans, the bigger the market for baked beans. And you effectively, the people who are the best actually accumulate clients better because of other people bringing them into the market. Because what happens is Doreen, who's too scared to have Botox and filler, her auntie, you know, her sister-in-law or something, does a course, and she injects her and breaks, you know, kind of breaks the mold. what's the word?
Makes,
Breaks the shell. Basically
breaks a hymen.
I wasn't going to say that. Doreen's way past that.
Doreen.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That is actually the saying I was looking for. To be fair,
Hymen.
someone breaks her in, and then suddenly Doreen's not so afraid of being penetrated anymore. So Doreen's like, but she didn't have a good time because it was a bit like it wasn't that well done because she's only just started. So she goes Googling for someone who's a bit better, and she finds this has gone really. So, but that's what I mean. So effectively,
no one's even responding. Hymen, I said lose your virginity. Sorry, just us.
Yeah. I don't know what happened there, but hopefully the sound died. But the point is, in a growing market, your competitors are growing the market for you, and then you have a shot at getting those people who are now newly introduced,
yes.
because no one is 100% loyal. And as the market grows, you get to have a piece of it. And this is why businesses that are similar together often hang around together. You'll have restaurants in a certain quarter,
or the jewelry quarter or whatever.
Yeah, and it actually drives business. The more people open a business there, the more people go to that area to shop. So it's exactly like that with aesthetics. The more aesthetic businesses there are at the moment, the more people have aesthetics, and the more shot you've got of having a piece of that ever increasing pie. So it's not actually real that your competitors are going to kill you at this stage. Now, when this industry peaks, and everything does peak, I don't know when it will be, but it'll reach a plateau when no more people are coming in, then it will get very different. But it's nowhere near that at the moment. We've got 5 years still of like 15% a year growth, according to Allergan. So,
but also, and so in that meantime, then in that 5-year window, whatever it is, we all need to be building our brand and building our marketing. So every second counts. And when we are spending our precious, precious life energy, which if you aren't going to give it to your marketing, you could at least give it to your children or your partner or whatever. And then you're spending it kind of, like I said, sort of 7 layers down in their website, kind of trying to find non-compliance, because it makes you feel like you've got control over your environment subconsciously. By you kind of, it's the same reason why we do active procrastination. So I always give the example of when I am procrastinating and I take if you guys, I don't know if you experience this, where you go into the dryer and then there's the washing machine dryer thing, and you pull off the gorgeous dust thing that you kind of pull off the filter, and that's my version of active procrastination. I don't want to be folding the clothes, so I'm trying to kind of create control over my environment by doing the thing that I'm not supposed to be doing. And I think it's the same thing. You feel kind of weirdly powerful, socially powerful over someone else because you found this non-compliance and now you're ruminating about it.
Yeah. But meanwhile, well, the analogy is, it's a bit like, say you're bathing your newborn baby and you really care about babies and their well-being and all that stuff, and you have this doubt that your neighbour's just not a very good parent. In the middle of the bath, you hear the neighbour's kids screaming, you think, I'm going to do something. I'm going to climb out the window and try and capture some footage of them neglecting their children. Meanwhile, your baby drowns in the bath.
Timmy.
I thought you were going to laugh at that analogy.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy.
But it is because you can't do both. You can't look after your baby and protect and look after the neighbour's babies. Like, make sure that they're doing it properly. You have to neglect yours in order to do
that's a really interesting point.
But it's like what we're saying about some people like to do all the treatments under the sun, and fair enough if you can implement all of them, but it's difficult, and we doubt that normally happens. But what I realized it's a risk-free sense of growth. So it's risk-free. It's actually easier to report someone to the HMRC than it is to put yourself out and market yourself.
Yes,
because there's risk associated.
Do a video of yourself.
Yeah, you might get rejected and someone might disagree with you, and then what? Then you're on the one being criticized. It's so much easier to criticize someone else to the HMRC. So you get that certainty of, I'm doing the right thing, I'm on the side of the law, I'm defending my business, you're doing all those things, but the reason why you're doing that instead of building a business is because that's risk-free.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy. There's no, you can even report people anonymously to the NMC, which I found out recently. I didn't know you'd be anonymous, but that must be happening all the time. I bet they're drowning in private sector complaints about.
Yeah. The other thing is that if you are saving the neighbour's baby and kind of getting all annoyed about the neighbour's baby, then when you do come back to your baby and the baby's this is a horrible analogy, but let's say you decide, right, okay, tonight I am going to do some marketing. I've stopped with the MRHA reporting, and you think, right, I'm going to do some marketing. Well, you aren't going to show up well to your marketing if you're in like some state. You just aren't. For me, and I've experienced this so viscerally in this last year since I started the mindset group, which is mindset group is kind of marketed because I'm trying to market an idea to you guys. I want you guys to be persuaded about all these things, which I think will give you emotional freedom. And so, but when I show up to do a post, if I'm, not in a good state, then it's a shit post. Whereas if I show up like, with my shoulders back, having just walked around the garden, in a good state, I'm going to be giving more, giving better. And you can't do that when you're all gnarled up because you just were focusing on everyone using the word Botox or whatever.
Well, it's that scarcity mindset or threat mindset. Like, you're right. If you're feeling under threat, and actually you've got to be patient because that happens. It does happen.
Oh yeah, of course.
So if you're feeling under threat, you're not going to do a big vivacious post. You just aren't. Like, it just isn't in you. Like, I've had that lots of times. I think I really should, but I have nothing to say today because there's so much else going on that I'm on the back foot.
Yeah.
And then you try with these mindset things to shift it around, and often you can. But I do think getting involved with a debate with another practitioner or a reports to MRHA doesn't make you feel on the front foot, even if you're right.
Yeah. That's kind of, in what we're talking about right now, that's sort of irrelevant. If you are wanting to show up as your best to your clients.
Yeah, because it is defensive. I mean, everyone knows. Like, I don't think emotionally you feel like you're out there winning at life while you're writing a letter to the MRHA you're not. No one feels that way. You feel like maybe you're going to do it and maybe it's the right thing to do, but it's not the same feeling you get when you actually go out there, post something that gets a great response, or just post something. Doesn't even have to get, just when you're actually making strides in your business, you feel different to when you're trying to defend something. Because
actually, if you think about this, just vibing off your point around whether you are doing something for the greater good or not. So let's say they've used the word Botox. It's like I remember it still, Liverpool Road in Manchester, and there's this big old sign above a pharmacy saying Botox here or whatever.
Okay, carry
on. And there's loads of those roads. Then you are so let's say that I was thinking, that's not good for the world. Well, actually, maybe I should have been, which I absolutely wasn't back in the day. Maybe I should have been thinking to myself, right, these clients that I'm trying to pull in, these new clients, they're vulnerable. They have hopes, fears, dreams. They have lots of fears, don't they, about looking done or about, bad side effects or, about being judged by their friends. Well, create some marketing content that's going to help them. Like, do something for someone today, post a motivational quote, whatever it is, do something that's going to make someone say, I really needed that today. Thank you. Or not to say it, but to be, because Kim did a beautiful post the other day about, I don't think she called them this, but lurkers. So there are people who are not showing their hand, but who are kind of just looking at your posts quietly. Those people are educating themselves. They're getting to know you. They're finding stuff out. They're working out whether it is of value to them to come into your ecosystem. And those people, you need to serve them. Literally, like, you have a duty to serve them. And if you're spending your time reporting people to the MHRA, then you're not serving the clients. I don't know. I mean, you could argue that. I'm happy to have a debate.
I don't know if people necessarily feel like serving until they've got the feedback from it. If you're starting out your business, you feel like, I've got to do something. But you are, if you can shift to that mindset, which takes a while because you've got to get the feedback before you feel that that's real, that you're actually serving people. Before you've actually had a client, you're not serving anyone. You're just thinking, choose me. But that you definitely will feel better doing something that's consistent with what you want, which is to grow your business, than you will trying to defend something that doesn't exist yet. And that, for me, that's the crucial thing, is that, like, do something that makes you feel like you can do this, like you can make progress. Right. Because actually being defensive you don't make progress that way. It's different. I think a lot of people do make that connection very quickly once you've treated people and you see the result. Like, you could definitely then amplify that. I was just trying to be in the minds of people who haven't had a lot of that feedback. Then you've got to just be on the front foot without any other driver than you just know what needs to be done in order to make some progress. But as soon as you do that, you get that wave of, like we spoke about in the other one recently, you get a wave of I can do this because I've shown it to myself. That idea that you quite like, which is you've got to prove it to yourself. That's the best feeling you ever get. Progress. It's pretty much like the main joy in life, apart from, maybe kids or something, or relationships, is that you make progress.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, this idea of service, I don't know. I think some people will really resonate with that, especially as we come from like a service kind of world, don't we? But yeah, I see what you mean.
Absolutely, people do resonate, but not everyone, because I think there's, I've already said it, but there's that thing of, you can connect the service when you get that hit, when you get that back. You've had it. That's why you resonate with it so much, because you get lovely messages from people saying things are really different and thank you. And that's like, wow, you now have a responsibility to keep doing that. But if in the early stages, you don't always have such a strong sense of that.
Yeah. Okay. So, I just wanted to make sure we've covered off this idea of, okay, so let's end with some kind of tips and tricks, or what would you do if you were in that pit of like, the bastards? How would you kind of come up from that? I've suggested saying, what's in it for me? And, to gain that emotional peace, and to be able to serve people, or to serve yourself and your business, and move things forward through marketing. What would you do if you kind of got into that pain place?
Well,
about there not being a level playing field.
Because there's a couple of things. Firstly, because I'm very aware of at least one case where I know of two practitioners who basically tore each other apart for a long time. As soon as I heard that story, I was like, I am never doing that.
Really?
I'm not going after. You do know. I just haven't given you enough detail. I don't want to make it public, but it got very nasty, and lots of how can I get you, and it went so far on that you just thought of the thousands of hours that they wasted at each other's throats, instead of just building their business. And I made a decision then, I'm not going to devote my time to that. I'll do it if there's a issue of responsibility.
Yeah, of course.
But I don't want to go out and attack someone who I think's a foe to me, because ultimately the destruction that happens when you go to each other's throats is not worth it.
Yeah.
So that stops me getting very resentful. The other thing that helps me, which is a completely different way of looking at it, which is enough people realize how this market works now, that when you see a big sign saying Botox, you think trashy.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But I think people know, like a big sign saying Botox you never see that outside a big clinic. Like, you just don't. So when you do see it out there, it's not. It just doesn't. I just don't think it's associated with quality, and so I don't worry about it. I just think, well, yeah, some people will go there. They're not my clients, and maybe some of them are. They'll learn the hard way, and then they'll Google for something with more reviews, and then I might have them as a client if I want them. But I just don't get as angry when people break the rules in that way. There probably are things I do get angry with. I don't like it when I hear that people who have been have a complication or a side effect get quoted the consent form back over the phone. I've heard that a few times. Like, oh, you signed that consent form, so we don't want to see you again.
Yeah, you're out.
But that's like there's an injustice there, like a human injustice. I just think you should never. There's a responsibility that they're shirking, but it's not a business thing. I actually think it's good for my business, but I find it really riles me, and I want them to have some justice for that. Yeah, but I don't. Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think of.
What about like adulterating? Well, actually, that's different. Yeah, what would you do if you found that someone was adulterating, like product?
Well, I know there are practitioners who water it down, but that's, once again, it's like a business threat. It's not necessarily it's bad business practice. I don't see it as a clinical risk. It would be different if if you find out someone is sharing needles, I would report them to public health. That's very few people. There are people who do that. They don't share needles, but they share the same syringe. But I have basically, I think over the years I've rewired my brain to just, as soon as I feel that resentment, because you do have a blip of it, and you think, oh, I'd love to, whatever. It goes away quite quickly, because I realize that it's not really what's limiting my business. What's limiting my business is that people don't know of us enough. I know people on this group will, but actually, if you stop anyone in the street in Manchester, they don't know who Skin Beaver is. So that's the task at hand.
Yeah.
And actually, just to draw it back to the road rage scenario, I always think that with road rage, like you're trying to go to the shop to do your shopping or whatever it is. You've got one plan, one job to do. Some guy cuts you up, and you can lose it. You can lose all your shit and go mad and like cut him off and swear and shout. People end up having fights. They lose teeth over it. One of them ends up dead or something. It's like you could have just gone to the shop and ignored that, and you would have got what you actually wanted out of that day.
Yeah.
So there's that sense of don't let yourself be distracted.
Yeah.
Remember what your real mission is.
Yeah.
Like you've all got your own goals. Like the fact that they're breaking the rules, someone else will probably report them, or they'll get caught out, or it won't work because clients start to know what dodgy looks like.
It'll fizzle.
Crack on. Yeah.
That's good way to leave it on. It's good to hear your experience as well here inside your brain. Right, my loves, let's see if there's any O'Kins on. I hardly have time to concentrate on my own business. How on earth do others have time to stalk and report others? I genuinely think it comes from a place of fear and possibly jealousy. Yeah, definitely fear. I always slightly worry about the word jealousy. I feel like it's basically, yeah, I agree. And I like, Kin, that you've acknowledged, as we all should, I think everyone should say out loud now, we are not spending enough time on our business. Like, even though I am obviously full-time, like more than full-time on my business, I'm not doing enough. And I think that we all need to acknowledge that. And then every single time we are, hunting people down, we need to decide whether that's the right thing. Right, my darlings, if there's anything else that you are interested in us, because I'm quite conscious that I always choose a topic. I choose a topic for our Wednesday night Tim Ander chats based on things that are bubbling up in my mind and I've been thinking about and talking to myself about in the car and things like that. So if you guys have any topics, then please let us know in the comments.
They often do bounce off what happens on the group though. So
yeah, different things happen. Sometimes they bubble up in me for a long time and then something will happen and I just like, Timmy, we're doing this tonight. Okay, my loves, we'll leave you to it. And thank you for joining. Take care.